What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the NamaSLAY Podcast, a podcast dedicated to uplifting the soul, discovering connections between spirituality, mindset, and wealth. I'm your host, Melissa Melati, and we are back for another fun episode of NamaSLAY with a previous guest who is, I would say, a crowd favorite. A lot of my listeners absolutely loved his first episode, which was episode 47. And I think just a lot of what he said really resonated with a lot of people. So without further ado, this is Barun Gorain. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Melissa, for inviting me again. I remember last time we had a wonderful discussion,
We did. It really resonated with me, and I left the conversation thinking, wow, okay, that is exactly what I needed today. It was one of those, which is just really awesome. And the last time that he was here, he actually brought his book, The 7 Essentials to Transform Your Life. And I hadn't read it yet. So you were just introducing the book to everybody on the show. And now I have read it, and I'm a massive fan of it. So I just wanted to discuss a lot of the things in your book. So let's just first start off with you just telling everyone a little bit about yourself and maybe your motivation or inspiration behind your book. Yes.
Okay, that's a great question. Okay, so I am an engineer, scientist. Mm-hmm. And my profession is extraction of metals. It's called metallurgy,
Ooh.
which is all about extraction of metals like gold, silver, copper, zinc.
Cool.
And I have been in this profession for the last maybe 25 years now. And technology has been my main focus, bringing new technologies to the resource sector. So what I have found that technology has been fantastic for the humanity, what it has done to us, in terms of comfort, convenience, communication, you just name it. Definitely. These days, Zoom has become so popular, So you can see what technology has done for us. Mm. But unfortunately, Melissa, if you look around, there's so much of stress and depression and health issues, physical, mental, emotional, which kind of got me thinking, technology is supposed to make our life better, happier, healthier, yet I'm seeing just the opposite.
Right.
So that really triggered me as to what's going on here. And, in my office, in my work, I've been in the corporate world, actually in Toronto, in the head office here in the Bay Street. I spent almost 10, 15 years there. What I found that everybody's asking the same question, asking me, Barun, I had a great schooling, great education, great career. Professionally, I feel very satisfied. I made, wealth as well for myself and for my family. But unfortunately, I don't feel fulfilled. I don't even feel that my health is good either, even though I'm doing all the right things, Wow. I said, wow, what's going on here? And at some point in time, also felt the same for me as well. Mm. So that triggered my curiosity that, technology and all these things that we talk about is going to make our life happier. It's not making us. So what is the issue? What is the issue? So that really prompted me to look into deeper. And that's how my research began. So, and as part of my profession, I used to travel quite a lot, all across the continent, almost 6 continents. What I found that after interacting with all kinds of professionals, whether it's medicine or nurses or farmers or engineers, all kinds of professions. And what I found that essentially there are, just to cut everything short, essentially there are 7 key essentials that are critical for human living, for our living. These 7 essentials that are absolutely necessary if you really want to have or avoid any kind of stress, depression, or have a good health,
Right.
So I did my research, I did all the findings and put them into this book, and that's how this book came about, 7 essentials. Mm-hmm. So this book is all about, focusing on essentials that enhances our life. So that's what this book is all about,
Wonderful. And can you name all the essentials for everyone listening?
Yes. Well, the number 1 is breathing life. Mm-hmm. Essentially what it means is that we need to make sure that we breathe properly so that our lung capacity is maximized. Mm-hmm. Second is we must be hydrated. Hydration is a major issue all across the world. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea is to have the right kind of water and make sure that our hydration is optimized. Mm-hmm. Third is to connect with the cosmic energy. For example, the sunlight, Today, actually, I spent 2 hours in the beach, so
Oh, so you
the
live
sun.
near Cherry Beach, you said,
Yes,
right?
I do.
That's so nice.
And
Wow.
the reason I do is because sunlight is life-giving. It is essential for all living creatures in the world, Sunlight, putting your feet on the ground, get Earth's energy. Earth has got lots of energy, and we are, evolved along with that energy. And many other energies along. So the third is to get cosmic energy into our lives. And the fourth is to have mindful eating, And there has been a lot of information flooded with eating. But there are 3 basic principles, which I talk about in my book. And which is essentially eat only when you're hungry, eat less, and make sure you eat nutrition-dense food. These 3 principles are so critical that if we can follow this, I feel that we can avoid many of the health issues that we have right now.
Right.
Okay, so number 5 is activities, physical, mental, and emotional or social activities. Very important. Make sure that our body is designed to move. Make sure that we have enough movement during the day. So I have put together 7 different ways of doing that. In fact, each of the essentials, I have put together 7 different ways of actually bringing that force into ourselves.
Right.
And number 6 is detoxification, which means that we are generating a lot of toxins, naturally, and also ingesting a lot of chemicals and all kinds of stuff. Those things have to come out of the system. And removing those toxins is a big issue, big issue. And many people are actually dealing with those. So that's number 6. And number 7 is essentially vibrant living. Is all about bringing all the 6 essentials inside you, so that now you can look inwards and really look at what life is all about, and make your life much more meaningful than what we normally have. Essentially stop the chattering of the mind.
Right.
And what it does, it's a kind of meditation, not like the meditation you sit down and do it. It's a meditation that you practice on a day-to-day living, essentially connecting with these 7 essentials, on you. So this book is all about how to connect with these essentials that are life-enhancing.
Wow. Yeah,
Yes.
I am just such a huge fan. And guys, I have made so many notes in this book, and I'll probably refer to a lot of them because I've highlighted a lot too. I'm one of those kinds of readers. When I like something, I highlight. And, every chapter I found had something that I took a step back and went, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I really liked chapter 6 because I think it's very much a buzzword right now, 5G or like 5G frequency. And a lot of people are talking about, the dangers of 5G, and people are really nervous, and sure, there's a lot of fear, whatnot online and in the media. And so when I read this chapter, though, it did make me relax a little bit on all that, because like you said in your intro, there are positives and there are negatives to technology, right? And so there's a lot of positives, and yes, there are negatives as well, but we just have to learn to sort of cope with them. And I know in this specific chapter, in I think it's number 6, when you're talking about this, you give a lot of different tips on how people can try to stay away from those frequencies or adapt to them. So could you, just because I don't have the scientific terminology, but I know you were saying protons, were they called? And
yes, well, it's basically, it's electric potential that we're dealing with,
Right.
And the positive is called proton, and negative is called electrons. And electrons are actually life-enhancing.
Right.
And protons are basically toxins, free radicals and toxins.
Right. Because I remember we were talking about, so guys, we actually attempted at doing this chat the other day via Zoom, and my internet just sucked. So I was like, come on, Barun, let's just go downtown and re-record this because it's just too good. And we were discussing how sometimes when you are feeling really off, you could have a lot of protons, and the way to neutralize yourself is by going outside and like putting your feet in the ground and grounding yourself, because the earth in itself has more, what's the terminology? It's
Well, it's got a lot of electrons,
Electrons,
which is life-enhancing electrons.
Okay.
So it can come and neutralize your protons or your toxins that you build in your system. So that's why when you put your feet on the ground, you become like absorber of all these different electrons, which is life-enhancing, which is very good.
Right.
That's the reason why you feel so good,
Right.
going to the beach putting your feet on the sand, wet sand,
Right.
and also going in the forest, for example, in the nature.
Yes, and you were saying that when people fly, they get further up in the frequency of the world, and they gather a lot of protons, so that when they come down from the plane, they should find a way to ground themselves, and that's what you do whenever you fly. You go to a park right afterwards, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what this is basically it's an electric charge
Right.
that we accumulate in the body. For example, on the ground, on the earth, essentially it's a 0 volt,
Okay.
right? So as you go every 1 meter, the voltage or electric charge goes up by 100 volts.
Okay.
The potential charge is about, or electric potential is about 100 volts every meter. So if you're living in a 10-story building, or maybe 10 meters out above the earth, essentially you're getting about 2,000 volts potential.
Wow.
The potential charge in your system is about 2,000 volts, and you are accumulating lots of protons or lots of charges, positive charges.
Right.
Now, these charges cannot do good for our body. Our system can definitely adapt to it to an extent, but eventually you have to discharge it.
Right.
So the best way to do that is put your feet on the ground, and that's the way you feel good, and you discharge all those, or basically you neutralize all those positive charges that's built in your system.
Right. So if you're living in the penthouse suite, know that you need to go and neutralize those.
You have to do that.
That energy. Okay, very interesting. And so how does this relate in regards to the 5G frequency and people sort of feeling nervous and fearful around that? Like if someone's feeling fearful, what could they do to know that they're still taking care of themselves and it's not affecting them as much? Are there things that they can do?
Yes, see, 5G is something new for us. We have been used to radio waves for a long time, but 5G essentially is very high frequency.
Right.
And smaller wavelengths. Very high frequencies. So essentially, what it means that basically, our system hasn't really seen that kind of frequency before. If you look at the frequencies that we're used to, for example, the frequency on the Earth, on the surface of the Earth, is around maybe 7.88 hertz, which is a hertz, talking about hertz. Whereas this one's you're talking about gigahertz.
So 5G is gigahertz.
Yes, basically it's a very high frequency. So it's not 8 hertz. So we are used to say, electricity that we get here is about 60 hertz,
Okay.
60, 70 hertz. But now you're talking about gigahertz, which is, almost a billion hertz.
Right.
Almost a billion hertz, almost. So the question is it harmful to us?
Yeah.
The question is, yes, now there are a lot of debates going on in terms of good or bad. There are two schools of thoughts around it, And if you look into some of the scientists, like I remember there's about 180 scientists. They presented their case to the United Nations not to initiate 5G without doing further testing. So I do not know if those things have happened or not. But obviously, see, technology is such a thing that the premise of technology is that somehow it's going to make our life better, improve our life. And if you look at the reality, as I said before, it's just the opposite in many cases. For example, we still have stress, depression. Whereas remember when the computers came in, maybe 50, 60 years ago, 40 years ago, people thought, okay, that's going to make our life much easier.
Right.
So obviously that hasn't happened, So definitely it's going to make our life easier in many ways. And there are always some hazards, negatives about any technology. So now what people do is most people go for comfort and convenience, right? Any technology. We like more comfort and convenience, so we go for these technologies. We know that, this may have some repercussions, but we still do that. For example, say if you want to travel from Toronto to Vancouver, there are many modes of transportation. You've got airplanes, you've got trains, you've got...
Right.
The thing is, most people prefer not to walk, but to take because it's comfort, convenience, right?
Sure.
So the same thing about fire as well, Fire is a technology which was invented, I'm talking about maybe a few thousand years ago.
One of the first technologies.
First technologies. But it's a technology,
It is, yeah.
So the same thing applies to Wi-Fi as well. In fact, at my home in Toronto, there was a time when I used only wired connection. I did not use wireless connection. And even now, a lot of people use wired connection because that way your radiations are lower. So there will be radiations. There will be a lot of EMF, which is electromagnetic forces, in any electric circuitry. Whether it's a simple electricity or, or Wi-Fi or even 5G. So there will be some repercussions.
Right.
So the good thing is to be aware of that and reduce the impact as much as possible.
Right.
And a lot of times what you can do is you can either, especially when you're going to bed, switch off your 5G network or switch off your wireless.
Yeah, you said this last time, and I don't know if that's possible with my boyfriend.
Well, sometimes, again, you're not using it in the night, and it may be, especially in your sleep time, especially when you're sleeping, your body is actually detoxing.
Do you turn your phone off completely when you sleep?
I put it on flight mode. Cell phone, always put your cell phone on flight mode.
Oh, I like that because then you can still get your alarm. Because it's charging. Oh, I love that. Yeah. I never thought of that.
Put on flight mode. So cell phones never keep next to your bed. Never, ever.
But my alarm clock is my phone.
So, but put on flight mode, alarm clock will still work.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, okay, so then I can just...
So
I know it's just like easier to turn your alarm clock when it's beside your bed.
I have this app here, sleep score, how well I have slept, because sleeping is such an important aspect, which I talked about in my book.
Yeah.
In I think chapter 6, detoxification. Because if you don't have good sleep, it's going to impact a lot of aspects of our health.
Right.
So sleeping is so important, but the thing about sleeping is, you have to make sure it's not just hours of sleeping, it's the restfulness.
Right. People said that there are specific hours. I can't remember if you talked about this in here or if I learned this from somewhere else. But I've heard that between the hours of 11 and 2 a.m. that the amount of sleep is technically doubled. It's a deeper sleep between those hours than if you sleep afterwards. Is that true? Have you heard of that?
It all depends on what you do before you go to sleep.
Okay.
For example, if you're watching a laptop and if you have all these blue lights going onto your eyes, so a lot of people use blue blockers. So I have a sunglass, night where it blocks the blue light, but all the other lights come in. So what I find that if I use that blue light blocker, the glasses, it actually helps me for a better sleep because. As soon as the body sees blue light, it's, time to wake up,
Right.
And now you're going to bed before. So I think it's good not to watch television or, look into your laptops or even cell phones.
Right.
And if you want to do that, there are features in your cell phone. You can turn off the blue lights.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can put it in the night mode,
Oh, okay. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, you can use a cell phone. It's called night mode. And a lot of people do that. Put in the night mode. And in the evenings, if you're watching or looking at your cell phone, that way, your eyes are not stressed out and it's not alarming.
Right.
Time to wake up, You're supposed to go to sleep,
Yeah, for sure. And I remember also in your book, you were talking about how there's specific paint that people buy that will help keep out certain EMF frequencies. Is that true?
Well, there are some EMF blockers.
Blockers, yeah.
Yeah, EMF blockers. In fact, I didn't bring it, but I have a Faraday's cage, like a little, I put my cell phone inside this little bag, and the bag has got, it blocks the EMF in a significant way and moves it away from me. So if I keep it in my pocket, and what it does is it keeps the EMF away from me in a different direction. So there are a lot of different technologies have come into play. And the whole thing about this is that you cannot avoid EMFs.
Sure.
In this modern advanced societies. And you cannot even avoid 5G, even though there's a lot of protest against it. And I'm not for or against. I'm just having a very balanced view on this.
Sure.
And the reason is there are hazards that we have to be careful about. And my feeling is the more aware you are, the better it is in terms of preventing. Right. And the best thing is in the morning or in the evening, go to the beach or any park and put your bare foot on the ground. I think it will discharge many of those toxins that you're talking about. So simple things like this can help.
And I know you're a scientist, so I'm curious. Have you noticed a difference between when you weren't using the cell phone case, for example, that blocks the EMF, as opposed to now? Have you noticed any kind of a difference in how you're feeling?
I'm very sensitive to EMF. I can feel the difference straight away.
Okay. That's probably because you meditate and whatnot and you're very in tune, because I'm the same way. I can feel everything, and it is very distracting sometimes.
Yeah. It is actually, and especially if I'm sitting next to a modem, Wi-Fi modem, I can feel that something is not right.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I do find a modem close by and said, "Oh, I'm not sitting here. I'm just going far away from there."
Okay.
So the thing about EMF is that the impact reduces square of the distance. For example, if you're 1 meter away, and compared to, say, if you're 4 meter away, the impact is reduced by 16 times because it's 4 square, right?
Oh, interesting.
So that's the good thing about just to be aware that, for example, don't put the modem right under your desk, and I've seen a lot of examples of where people have suffered tumors and stuff like that, putting the modem just underneath the desk.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've read about it. But again, this is something that we have to be just aware and be careful. So if you want to use a modem or any electric connection, for example, your laptop here, if you're connecting to the wire, look at the voltage. If you measure the voltage, it's going to be very high. As soon as you disconnect, the voltage on your laptop is going to be low.
Right.
So
I purposely didn't plug my laptop in today.
Yeah. So
because I write that in your book.
So these simple measures can help you to. You cannot avoid all these impacts completely,
right?
But you can reduce the impact. That's really my message.
Right. And I know you're quite spiritual. So, do you believe in the notion that our thoughts create our experience?
Okay, so anyway, spiritual, I do not know if I'm spiritual, but definitely I like to focus on, for me, every moment I like to be meditative,
Right. I would say that's quite spiritual. The reason I'm asking is just because a lot of people do believe that, and a lot of people believe that actually what you think about is what you bring about. And so your mind is quite powerful. And if you are in a certain headspace, or you have specific belief systems, you can create ailments in your body and whatnot. And so I just wonder, if that were true, hypothetically, let's say that's true, then does any of this matter? Because then do we have the power to not create our illness, even regardless of all the frequencies and whatnot? Do you know what I mean?
See,
it's interesting.
It is very interesting what you said. And see, the way I look at it is that most of us live in the psychological world.
Definitely.
And in fact, I would say that number could be 70-80% of your time, even more, I would say. Because see, the moment you get up in the morning, within half an hour, you have already thought about what has happened yesterday, what I'm going to do today. The whole world is there. The fear comes in. A lot of times the guilt comes in, all kinds of emotions come in, stress, depression. By the time you go to your work, you're already exhausted. And that is typical. You know why? Because we feel that by thinking, we're going to solve our existing problem.
Right.
And my experience is just the opposite.
By
just
doing.
The opposite. Okay. So now what happens is, what is the thinking doing? What is the thinking doing? Thinking, all it does, it stirs up your memory, whatever memory you have, and thinks, oh, this is how it was. And then what it does, it projects the future and talks about and thinks about, okay, what it should be or what it should not be. And it never focuses about what it is now. What is the reality? So all the time I've noticed, and for me and for many people that I know, that they're stirring up the memory, the thought that, there will be no thoughts if you don't have a memory.
Right.
So thoughts come from memories.
Wow.
And
Ooh,
memories
yeah.
come from experience, because every day you're experiencing things, like, So, for example, this discussion here, it will be in your memory,
Right.
and this could stir up thoughts, and it could stir up your projection that, okay, I did this talk with Barun today. Maybe tomorrow I'll do this with this person. So that stirs up projections. Right?
Sure.
So that is a psychological world, But in reality, but in a physical world, you need memory. Because, for example, if you need to drive a car, you need to learn a language, you need
Right.
memory, right?
Imagine we didn't have it. Couldn't
Yes.
drive a car.
So otherwise you won't be safe. There's a
Right,
reason
of
why we have
course.
memory, because it's basically for our safety, so
Makes
that we
sense.
know, we're aware. So there's a reason why we have memory, but the problem is we use that for wrong reason. So the thoughts that we produce, it actually keeps us in our psychological world, what it was and what it should be. It's never about what it is now. And that's the reason why problems never get solved. That is the reason. And why do I know this? Because I'm an engineer. For me, if I don't focus on what it is, my bridge will fall down. If I construct a bridge, it'll fall down because I'm not able to solve the problem, So I cannot go there and think about, what it was, how it should be, or what it could be, or what it was before. I cannot do that. I have to focus on the problem right now. And this is what many engineers do. And that's the reason why, still engineering holds. A lot of like this building that we're sitting here,
Right.
basically engineering, right?
Wow.
So I that's why I feel that focusing on what it is, it's so important. Now, how do you do that? How do you train our mind? That's why my book is very important for me, because this is actually basically my notes. And I always refer to this as my guide. And reason is, when you connect with these 7 essentials, automatically, you think about what it is right now, because you're so connected that you don't have to think about what was before and what I have to do tomorrow, because you're so connected with the sunlight, with the earth on the grounding, with the air,
Breathing.
with the water, with your own body, about detoxification. So you're so connected that you feel that there's no need for thinking about what's going to do tomorrow, So psychologically, you are well off that way, That's what I find.
Right.
So this is my spirituality, Melissa.
That's very spiritual. I mean,
Yeah.
you liked my crystal. I have the
This
crystal.
is
on the
beautiful.
table.
I like this. And interestingly, as a mineral engineer, as in the field of metallurgy, we deal with crystals and
Really?
minerals. So it's amazing, the beautiful. For example, silicates. This is quartz, some kind of a quartz.
Yeah, I think it's an amethyst.
Amethyst. Yeah. So basically, it's a different kinds of quartz.
Yeah.
And they have got crystal structure, in an amazing way.
Yeah.
And why do we have Silicon Valley in California?
Why? For all the tech people?
It's
Just joking.
basically you make semiconductor, and silica has crystal structure. So when you say in formation, basically inside a formation. So that's why when you see the memory chips in the computers,
Yeah.
they use silica, semiconductor, for storing
Oh.
memory. This is a very good to store memory. So whatever you are talking is written there,
Whoa.
So how do you think the computers store the memory? Just like we do.
I didn't know. It's just like one of those things. Like,
Yeah, I mean, what?
what? Like, how does?
How does the computer store all the information?
Right.
So that is because of the formation. In formation, basically inside. So basically, you need to have a structure, crystal structure, where you can store. Anyway, this is a different topic completely.
So cool, though. I'm nerding out in my head. I'm like, ooh, this is so interesting.
And
I
our
want to
brain
know.
does the same thing. For example, there's a formation. For example, the memory, is stored because exactly the same principle. So the computer is overtaking us, by the way. So that's why if you rely on memory, this will overtake us and has already overtaken us. So that's why memory is something that others can do, even machine can do better. So that's why I feel that there is something beyond memory,
Yeah.
which is where when you focus on what is, you go beyond memory. You tap into intelligence, which
Right.
is beyond memory.
Right.
Because memory is limited. Your experience is limited. My experience is limited, right?
Sure.
So if I rely on that experience, basically I'm looking at a very limited world.
Right.
Whereas if you tap into the intelligence, which is what it is right now,
In the present.
in the present, that's where the intelligence, you can tap into the intelligence, which is the actual mind,
Right.
Mind is not sitting here, basically it's everywhere. So that's what it is. And that I feel is very important, as an engineer, as a scientist, I feel that when I focus on what it is, what is the actual problem, I go beyond that. I see sometimes you can see things which you had never imagined before, which is not in my experience or in my memory. Something. So that is the beauty about focusing on what it is.
Right. Because there's something to learn in every moment. There's always something to learn.
Yes.
And that's really cool that your job has helped you realize how important it is to be present.
You're present,
right?
Yeah.
And your job has been so significant in reminding you of that, because that's something that I constantly try to practice, because I think everyone that's placed in my life is someone that can teach me something that I need to know, right? And the present moment's always different, so you can't rely on memory because every moment is different. And it's just not certainly history can repeat itself. Sure, there can be patterns, but it's never going to be exactly the same. That's just how life is.
Exactly. And if you project based on your memory, it'll be mostly wrong.
Right.
Because that's a bias. Essentially, memory is a bias.
Sure, because feelings and whatnot as well during those moments will create those biases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because this has happened before, and situation is changing all the time.
Right.
So essentially, what you're doing is you're using those biases to take action in the present. Which is not going to be good. So that's the reason why we keep on doing the same mistake again and again.
Right. What about intuition?
Okay, intuition, again, there are two kinds. See, intuition is really about getting the memory quick, fast. That's one way of looking at it.
Sure.
Essentially, it's just like a mathematical calculation which is rapid. For example, if somebody asks you a question, what is this object? All of a sudden, if it comes, if you have seen this object, it's there in your memory, it comes instantly, that's what it is, even though you may not remember it, through the process, but automatically the brain will project straight away, So it's a very basically it's a very fast computer. So that's one way of looking at intuition. The other way of looking at intuition is that deep intelligence, which needs to be touched, because that's where I feel the real mind is. The brain is here, but the mind is everywhere, right? Mind is interconnected.
Yes.
So I feel that intuition has got two meanings. One meaning is that if you think systematically, you just cannot figure out what this is, but something tells you. Basically, it comes out.
Yeah.
Because memory can be in different forms, and in some cultures, they look at memories beyond this existing life. That's because our cells, our sister body also has memory. For example, they say that your I don't know how to say this, but everything. For example, our cells, for example, there's this memory in our cells. The color of our skin, for example. So there's a lot of memory in the whole body itself.
Right.
And those memories, for example, how do the cell knows that it needs to produce energy at a certain time? How do the cell know that now, this guy has eaten, potatoes, and I need to process it.
Right.
So how do they know how to? So there is a memory inside us, and there is intelligence inside us which is working continuously, constantly. Right?
Yep.
So I feel that that's why intuition has got many meanings. But the one thing that I feel is commonly used is how fast you can bring your memory.
Okay.
To find out what's going on. Other thing is tapping into the deep intelligence, which our mind, essentially it's our mind, which we connect to. When you're essentially quiet, when the thoughts process is not there at all,
Right.
So, but the other thing is you cannot actually control your thoughts at all, If you want to control your thoughts, you just cannot do it. So the only way is to pay attention to what it is, and that way, automatically, the thought stops. In a big way.
Right. Yeah, because that's a big thing for me. Like, I'm quite intuitive, and I think that it has to do with being in the present moment and, being able to right now pick up this object and feel if this is something good for me or bad for me.
Right.
Essentially, I think that's kind of how my mind makes sense of it, is what's good and bad. But maybe that's also very black and white thinking, because there is essentially a gray area. Not everything is good and bad. That's relative, right? So, yeah, I just find it very interesting, and recently I've become quite intuitive. I mean, obviously, you were here on the show before, and I think I pulled some cards for you last time, right?
You did.
Yeah, and you know what? My cards are in my bag. I'm going to grab them afterwards because I'll pull another one for you. But since you were here last, I've really been working on that. And anyways, I feel like it ties into all of these essentials. I think last year in January. So when did you come here last?
I think it was probably end of July. Yes.
Okay, cool.
End
Around
of July.
the same time then.
Yes.
So in January last year, I started meditating every day, Monday to Friday with my friend. And we're still doing it. So a year and a half later. And I have seen such a massive change in my intuition and my ability to, like, when I'm present, understand so much of what's going on around me that other people, if they're just in their heads, they don't see, or they have too many biases from being in their heads. And I feel that that is it. Yeah, it's been such a cool experience, and I think that is kind of the result of doing all of these things and connecting with your inner self and whatnot. And
that's fantastic. That's really good. I mean, I think yes, you're right that meditation helps a lot in terms of be very aware. You're very conscious, very aware, much more aware. Yeah. Otherwise, you're completely bombarded with your thinking process, and it just diverts your attention, and also creates a lot of bias as well. But if you're not, if you can, if the thinking process slows down or even stops in some cases, I feel that definitely there's a big what do you call it? Intuition is one word. The other thing is, you just have a drive inside you that, this is not right. Maybe I should be doing that one. Right. So you can make some decisions very quickly that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very helpful in just knowing where to go, and people call it your higher self, and so you're just connected with what you need to be doing, and it's very interesting. But anyways, there's a couple things from your book that I want to bring up. I kind of sidetracked there a little bit just because, I don't know, I was just interested in your thoughts. A few things that I found interesting. Well, we kind of talked about the man-made frequencies, so I'm going to not bring that up. Oh, I found this really cool, really an interesting fact. Nearsightedness in children appears to be closely linked to the amount of time spent outdoors.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy, is this common? I have been recently having this discussion with a lot of different people, and how they have noticed that their vision has been quite fuzzy recently. They'll go outside and they'll look at leaves, and you can't focus in on them anymore. And so my first reaction was, is this 5G? And then my second reaction is, oh, maybe it's because we're all just looking at our phones so closely, and we're not looking away to look at, what's around us, that we're all becoming quite nearsighted. Is that what
Absolutely.
you were talking about?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. I think the cell phones, the blue light that you get, it's stressing out our eyes in a big way. I mean, there have been times when I want to finish my project. I've got just a day. I'm working through the whole night to finish my project with this laptop. And I can tell you, the next day I feel blurry. I don't feel good. It has happened to me. So I think it's the same reason. And now look at the kids. They are always hooked on to their devices. And they're not seeing natural lights. So I think the best way to reduce the impact is to go out in the sun, and not take the device along with you.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone, So that's the best way, I feel. And also, you're accumulating a lot of these positive charges in the system. Put your feet on the ground. It'll help you tremendously.
Right. I think that's the number one thing. And I started doing that after our talk last year.
Yes.
I would go out into the backyard and put my feet in the ground. And I mean, I'm a hippie at heart, so.
No, it's good. I think it's a very basic thing to do.
Yeah.
And
you just feel good. I mean, I don't think anyone could argue that. Even if you didn't practice that, I think everyone can probably think back into their memories and remember a time of being outside with their feet on the ground and how good they felt afterwards, you know? It's a very natural thing. There is a really cool part of chapter 6 when you're talking about emotional freedom techniques. And I just want to read some of my highlighted bits because I just loved these 2 pages. So, emotional freedom techniques help people to be more conscious of their emotions and to relieve any compulsive patterns accumulated earlier in life, sometimes back in childhood. So, if you're listening and you don't understand what that means, our belief systems create our life. And so when we are young, between the ages of 0 to 7, approximately, that's where we create our core beliefs. And EFTs are to help you rewire the sort of subconscious beliefs that might be causing, not turmoil, but causing you to live a life that's not necessarily in alignment with what you want. So just to explain it further, EFT stimulates different energy meridian points in our bodies by tapping them with fingertips while simultaneously using custom-made verbal affirmations. And the most interesting thing that I thought was so cool on this page was that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in the U.S. reports that about 85% of all diseases have an emotional component, which is what I was kind of touching on earlier in terms of a lot of people believe that our thoughts create our life. Well, maybe more accurately, our emotions create the diseases or our life. Can you comment on that?
Yes. Well, thoughts and emotions, there's no emotions without thoughts,
Yes.
Thoughts come first and then the emotion starts,
Sure.
You think, I have to go to work today. And then the emotions start going, oh my God, my boss will be there, and everything starts. So thoughts create emotion. That's what I'm saying. And thoughts come from where? From your memory.
Right.
And memory comes from your experience. So I think they're very connected, thoughts and emotions. Mm-hmm. You cannot separate. So again, the issue is the emotional freedom technique is all about reason why you're tapping all these things that they do is all about trying to bring you to the present moment so that you're not worried about your past and your future. Right. So all it's trying to do is the technique is basically trying to cure the symptom for the time being. But the underlying principle is it makes you bring to what it is. Just focus on the now kind of thing, Right. So what it does, by doing that, all of a sudden your thought process, is not hyperactive, So it's reduced to an extent, and that's how you feel good. Then your emotions are not brought into play all the time, Mm-hmm. So it's basically the same thing we just talked about, It's all about focusing on what it is instead of what it was and what it should be.
Right.
That makes a big difference. Mm-hmm. And this is what the problem is. Emotional people who are stressed out, emotional issues, they're always projecting that, no, I should have been like this because,
should have statements
should have.
Are massive.
Those are dangerous, in my opinion.
Yes.
In my opinion, that thought process and time that, okay, if I do this, this will happen. It will not. It's not going to be. If I do this, everything will be fixed. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Why? Because it's very limited. Your thoughts are very limited. Mm-hmm. It's so limited in terms of. So the best thing is to stay what it is. That's why when you go to the nature, as I said in my book, if you go to the nature, for example, or if you focus on your breathing, focus on the hydration, the water that you drink, cosmic light, sunlight, earth's frequency, be conscious when you're eating the food. So by doing this, what's happening is even for detoxification, for example, if you're going to the washroom, be conscious because it tells you so many things about what's happening inside your body.
Right.
So I think it's very, very important to be, and that's the reason why, to deal with emotional issues, stress, even for better health, the best thing is to connect with things that actually matter. And that's what this book is all about, right?
Right.
So that is the whole point. So EFT, which I mentioned in my book, it is basically trying to address the symptoms, but underlying principle is focus on what it is. And that could only happen once you start practicing some of the things written in the book. Right. And that's what I've been doing because this is really my guide, I've written it based on my research. But I read my book quite often, actually. You know, my wife feels very surprised that you should be knowing all this, but actually it's a guide.
Right.
You know, I do not know everything. I just practice what I can. I'm learning. You know, I'm learning.
Sure. The more you read the information, it'll become more of a memory, and you'll remember it. But certainly, there's a lot of information to recall. So it's obvious that you spent a long time trying to, put it together. So I can understand why you would refer to it. That makes a lot of sense. So EFT tapping techniques are really popular right now. Do you use it yourself? Have you ever tried it?
You know what? I have read through them, and that's the reason why I thought it's very important to include in the book.
Right.
Because for every essential, I put together 7 different ways of bringing. So EFT is a very important one because you have to, because this is also a toxin, emotional toxins. You have to take it out of the system.
Right.
And this can happen for various reasons, So yes, I have practiced in a sense that I have a homeopathic doctor. She is fantastic. She actually does energy healing.
Really?
Yeah, she does energy
Reiki?
healing. No, not Reiki, but she's basically homeopathic. But she's basically focusing on the energy side, fixing not my physical side, but the energy side. So and she has done something very similar. For example, I'm stressed out. In my previous job, I was very stressed out. As I said before, I was in the corporate world in Bay Street here and traveling 6 continents, this, that. And obviously, work can be very stressful in many situations. And I went to her a few times, how to deal with this. And she helped me, and she did something. And it's the same principle, exactly the same. It's not really exactly tapping, but it's something called chakras, which is basically the energy points in our system.
Right.
So she is essentially, tapping all the different energy points.
Okay.
And there are different properties of these different energy points,
Right.
And you can feel it. So some people feel that. As a scientist, initially I thought this is all rubbish, that how come we don't see this in the body, physically don't see it. But actually the energy meridians are different.
Definitely. I'm a Reiki
You are.
practitioner.
Well, there you go.
I know
So
all about this, but this is great, though, for anyone listening. Please go on. This is, wonderful.
So for me, that was my experience with the tapping. And whenever I actually go, to see her, she's like my mentor as well, because she focuses on, she's very, experienced. And she has seen the world in many times. She has cured herself from cancer.
Wow.
That's how powerful she is.
See, I want to go to her.
You know what?
After this, I need a recommendation.
So yes, definitely, she's amazing. And even though she has moved out of Toronto last couple of years ago, but she comes to Toronto once in a while, So she's amazing. So she has done this. So she has gone through all the energy points and helps to balance it.
Okay.
So
Through tapping.
It's not really tapping. It's basically put the hand. Basically put the energy. Basically hand, our palms, has got.
So it is like Reiki.
It is like Reiki.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So my wife, she was reading this book called Reconnection. And again, I can see a lot of healing techniques are based on, touching.
Sure.
Touching. And obviously you can feel the warmth,
Yes.
So, and if somebody else is touching you, again, you can feel the warmth. So again, if you know the energy points, energy meridians, and which you know very well, you can actually see what it does in terms of healing. I do not know, but what it does for sure that I'm completely, in the now, in the present.
Sure.
Completely in the present, because it's so relaxing, and also your thoughts just don't worry about thoughts at all. Thoughts just become very calm.
Yeah.
In fact, become completely thoughtless at some moments. So that's the beauty of that, and that's my experience with my homeopathic doctor.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about because whenever I've gotten Reiki treatment from someone, it's the same thing. There's a lot of studies on the power of physical touch, which makes this whole don't touch anyone, you have to wear a mask initiative right now that we're all following by. It makes it really interesting and tricky. And I mean, obviously we're all just trying to take precautions and we're trying to do our part. But I wonder long term if this goes on for, a year, what that's going to be like. I wonder. I mean, certainly I think that there's a lot of correlation between physical touch and even just like face-to-face connection and not being depressed. I think that you even touched upon that in one of the sections of your book about how it's so important to get out and like make human to human connection.
Yes.
And even one of the most interesting things that I liked that you wrote in the book is that volunteering and creating a sense of purpose for yourself is what will get you out of your mind. And you know, that was my experience when I was severely depressed when I was 18 years old. So 12 years ago now. And it was really interesting because it was the start of social media. And I had always been very active. I had always been a dancer, a competitive dancer, and I had quit dancing. I had always been an actor. I basically quit acting because I was super down and I had lost all kinds of weight and whatnot. Wasn't eating properly. Probably wasn't getting the right water.
Yes.
Basically was not implementing any of the essentials in my life. And so I know firsthand about how important all of those things are. But the most powerful thing that I think got me out of my depression was finding a sense of purpose. And I think that is what people possibly might be lacking now or losing sight of. And I think it's very possible that back in the day when we were more religious, that gave us all sort of a natural sense of purpose, whereas now people aren't. Some people are obviously, but there aren't as many people that I would say follow the church or, you know, are a part of any one religion anymore. And, you know, I think possibly that is what's contributing towards a lot of the depression. Would you agree or disagree on that?
No, I agree, fully agree. Because see, if you're all the time thinking about yourself, that leads to depression because you're just thinking about yourself, me. But when you go out and do voluntary work, all of a sudden it's all about you, you know, all about someone else. So that changes the perspective completely. And I feel that's the beauty about, you know, doing voluntary work, you know, or any kind of social work, not just, you know, any kind of social work, even at your work as well. Like even if you're paid to do the work, even in that situation, you know, if you're contributing positively to the company or to whoever you work for, that by itself is so basically if you approach everything as a service to others, that by itself is it lightens the heart. I feel it lightens the heart. And you're not thinking about me all the time, you know. I think that's the big difference. Yes. They say that, there's a very interesting, this doctor there, he talks about, they say I is illness, we is wellness.
Ooh.
I is illness, we is wellness.
Wow.
So
cool.
that was powerful. He's a doctor, medical doctor, and he has been teaching this I listened to him a few times. I thought that was wonderful what he said, and I felt, wow, that's powerful. And when you think about I, you know, everything becomes so limited, you know. So just to answer your question, you know, I think very important to be able to contribute to the society. Very important.
Definitely. And I thought, you know, in your last chapter when you're talking about, what was it called? I'm blanking. The seventh essential, what was it called?
It's called Vibrant Living.
Vibrant Living. That's what it is.
Yeah.
There we are.
Yes.
Vibrant Living. And you talk about the importance of goals and, you know, and finding essentially that purpose. And I think it is. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Because see, it's also a training because nothing comes automatically. You know, it's not like that thing.
Right.
So goals are so important because see what happens is a lot of people don't really understand the importance of goals. So they just go blind. And what happens is then somebody else drives your agenda, essentially, because you don't have a goal, but somebody has a goal, so they can use you or misuse you, whatever. So that's the problem. So if you have a goal, but then you have to learn how to have goals and try to achieve them, you know. So that's why I said, have a weekly goal, you know. Say, this week I want to do this. Make it very simple. They call it SMART objectives.
Yes.
Make it very simple. That I want to read 10 pages this week.
Right.
And after a week, come back and say, how many pages did you read? 9 pages? If it's 9 pages, ask why 9 pages? What happened? What you could have done better? and then pursue that again, and make sure you get 10, maybe 11 next time. So I think it's an art, and it's something that we have to learn ourselves. So then you do 1 week, then what is your 6 months goal? What is your physical goal? For your health goals, what are your professional goals? So that's how you learn all this. So this is something that very important, that we learn all these skills. Otherwise, what happens is we get completely crazy. Oh, I've been working for somebody else, and look, I have done nothing for myself. Everything has happened for the other guy or the other person. So that frustrates you, and that's how stress, depression comes into being, because you have no control on yourself, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I found that recently, we live in such an interesting time where everyone kind of thinks that everything happens like this, instant gratification, you know, and partially that's slight programming from all of the social media apps. But I think that having goals kind of also helps you see that nothing that's worth it comes like that, and there's always a journey, and it's a struggle for everyone. It might not look like that on social media, where you see someone in a not so nice home, and a second later they're in a gorgeous mansion, but there's a journey to that, whether you see it or not. And I think it's important for us to set those goals so that we learn that it's a process, that everything's a process, and it takes time, and you have to build and work at it. And coming from a mindset of knowing that you can get better at a skill, and not that, you should just give up if you're not great right away, because no one is, right? So, yeah.
I fully agree. I mean, so that's why I feel that having a goal will save you from depression and stress.
Agreed.
Because then you have at least some control of your life. Otherwise, others will dictate your agenda.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yes. I have really enjoyed this talk.
Okay,
I could talk to you all day. But thank you so much for being here. And, you sell this on Amazon, right?
Or yes, that's on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could you just tell everyone where they could find it? So for everyone on the video version, The 7 Essentials to Transform Your Life by Barun Gorain.
Yes, you can find this at Amazon. And also I have a website. It's called 7I, letter I, 7 number, 7I lifestyle.com.
Okay. So www.7ilifestyle.com.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Number 7 I, letter I, lifestyle.com.
And do you have like exercises and whatnot on the website, or is it buying the book?
No, it's got quite a lot of information there, some blogs there as well. So I keep posting some new information, whatever I did find,
Oh, I love it. So I'm such a blogger at heart. I've been blogging since, do you remember LiveJournal? Back in the day.
Yes.
I'm like, just at heart, I love blogging, and I still read blogs, and I think that there are people out there that still love them, and I have a feeling they're going to make a comeback. So I love that you're doing that. That's awesome.
Basically writing up, because every day you're learning something new, and then when it becomes really certain critical mass, try to put them all together so that others can also, I can share with others,
Yeah.
So I do that. So it's there in my website. It's quite a few.
Wonderful.
And
you cite all your work. I love that you put all the citations at the back. I love it. I think that's just awesome. I think we live in such a world where everyone just kind of spits out facts that aren't necessarily facts anymore. So I like that you really do your research, and it's nice to feel that I can trust the person that I'm reading his content, and it's not just some crap that's not necessarily backed, right? So
see, all these things. See, I'm not here to preach or or being a teacher or some authority telling you to do this. All I'm trying to do is share this and try it for yourself. Just find out, whether it works for you or not. So it's basically sharing.
Yeah.
So,
but in sharing, that makes you a little bit of a teacher yourself, right? Because also you're sharing what you're applying to your own life, and that's the best teacher. Someone that's sharing information that is also using it, because there's quite a lot of people, and I've met some interesting self-help people that will share all this really valuable information, but then behind closed doors do not apply it to their life.
Yes.
And that is always fascinating to witness. So I think you're just so awesome. And and I just from our last chat, I can tell that you apply all the information that you try to share. And I just think that's wonderful. So
No, it's been a wonderful journey, actually, and this journey is only going to go even more faster and faster for me, because I love this journey. This is lovely.
Yeah.
And I want to learn more and interact with more and more people around the world, and maybe work together.
Yeah.
So
you should do a YouTube channel. I would totally watch all of your content.
I will actually. I'm looking at doing it. Because I've had few interviews, like this, and short interviews.
Mine's longer.
Shorter means half an hour on average.
Yeah.
Viva magazine was interesting. It's a women's magazine.
Oh, wow.
And there was a short, and that did not continue because, after this COVID thing. So I think that will come back again. So I started an episode, and I think so a few episodes like that are happening, which is great. So idea is that I want to find like-minded individuals, people, and I feel like working with them, so that the world is an amazing, rich place.
Yeah.
As long as, we find the right people, so that we can all share and, handhold each other,
I would, that's awesome. And if you ever want to do anything else with me, I just think you're so cool. So
No, definitely.
if we could do like some other YouTube video or something, but I just think that this information is so valuable, and people need to hear it, and people need to hear it from people actually applying it, because you can also just explain things on such a simple level because it's so ingrained in you from applying it to your own life, so.
No, definitely. This is, this is beautiful. Very nice.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here. And guys, man, I feel so weird because this is my first interview that I've done in a very long time, obviously since, we've all been quarantined and whatnot. So I feel so rusty, but the motto of the show is the grass is always greenest where you are right now. So I hope that you all remember it, and it's so relevant to what we're talking. And actually, I just remembered, I didn't pull you a card. Do you want me to pull you a card?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
I think we have to follow the traditions.
Yes. When Barun arrived, this is obviously a new space. I've never shot here before. And I was just kind of like running around trying to figure out everything. And I didn't even pull my cards out. So I'm going to put my microphone down. And first off, would you like a card for something, like a specific question that you want answered, or do you want just general knowledge?
Let's try specific this time.
Okay, sure.
Last time I did general knowledge.
Sure. Do you want to say it out loud, or would you rather just keep it in your brain?
I'll keep it in my brain.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have some new techniques, which no one on the show knows about. You would only know about it if you've watched me do. I do these live streams with my friend Dorota. She's a medium, and she has pushed me to now, when I pull a card, just trust my intuition as to what the card means, as opposed to reading the little booklet.
Yes.
I'm not allowed to read the booklet. I love that she pushes me to do this. So now I just try to go off of what I get. So, okay, so the first card that I pulled is called the Spiral Dancer. And here we have a beautiful young lady who is holding this light in her hand, and above it you can kind of see like a circular spiral. And I'll show the camera for everyone listening on audio. I apologize. But yeah, essentially that's what it is. And so what I'm drawn to is the fact that she's holding this beautiful light in her hand. And even though that is a woman, that is you, your spirit. And this is what I see. I see that you have light in the palm of your hand, and you're sharing it. She's lifting it up for everyone to see, and she's giving it to the world. And you can see it leaving her hand in a spiral to the rest of the world. And I think that's you, and that's what it's saying. And that through you putting out this information and you sharing that light, it will spiral out into the world, and you will continue to grow. And yeah.
That's wonderful. In fact, the way I was thinking is, where do I go next? Which way do I go? So I can see.
So there you go. It will lead you to it. You'll be led to where you need to go, essentially, just by putting your light out there. So that's what that card represents. And then the next card represents, it's called the Rainbow Prince, which it is literally the exact same thing. Here we have a beautiful angel man holding rainbow light in the palm of his hand. And he's just lifting it up to the universe, and he's looking at the light. So I think what it's saying is for you to follow the light, follow your intuition, where you're guided, and you'll know where to go. You don't even need to ask that question, where to go next. You'll know where to go. And it also represents compensation. So I think you're going to start to see some compensation for all of your work and all the energy that you've been putting out into the universe.
Wow, that's beautiful. Very nice. Wow, it's powerful.
There you go. Wonderful.
Yeah. These things are really can inspire you in a big way. Yes. And sometimes when you're a bit wavy and shaky, these things can help you.
100%.
So this is wonderful that you do this. This is fantastic.
Thank you. Well, when I was down again a long time ago, I had discovered oracle cards, and they brought me a lot of peace, because it's not that it's whether you believe in angels or spirits helping you or not, you can believe in the power of energy, and that what you need to know, you'll be drawn to, right? And that's sort of just the law of attraction. And so what I've picked up, of course, it's perfect as to what you were asking. And it always is, because that's just how energy works, the law of attraction. And we're attracted to what we, need, and what our energy is, what our energy is vibrating on. So if you can even just think of it on that level, it can sort of just, guide you to what you need to know. And it's very peaceful, and it helps you trust what you already know, because you already know this. You don't need these cards to tell you that, but sometimes we need to get out of our own heads and hear it out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it gives you a lot of confidence and assurance. Very important.
Exactly.
No, this is fantastic, Melissa.
Oh,
really great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, and it's been so fantastic. Thanks so much for listening, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please go ahead and give it a like or subscribe to the series. That would be absolutely awesome. As well as if you want to join our Discord, like I said, I will put the link in the description box for this episode. And check us out on YouTube at Melissa Melotti. And you will find many episodes of NamaSLAY, as well as, of course, the live stream Lunchtime Sunshine series. I am live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. for some meditation, to do a gratitude checklist, and to just get into that good feeling state. And of course, sometimes I pull an angel card. Actually, all the time. Every single episode now, I've been pulling an angel card, and it's very fun. So I hope you will come and hang out with me there. Love you guys so much. Sending you so much love, light, and sunshine vibes. NamaSLAY.